You know, sometimes a single decision can change the course of history. In the early 1900s, the British Empire made a move they thought was brilliant. A classic divide-and-conquer play to break the spirit of Indian nationalism. But they got it so wrong. Instead of breaking it, they accidentally lit a firestorm called the Swadeshi Movement that would completely rewrite the roadmap for India's independence.
If you want to know what sparked this fire, you don't have to look far. You just have to read what the British themselves were writing. This quote from their own Home Secretary, H. Risley, it just lays it all out, plain and simple. They knew, in their own words, that a united Bengal was a threat, and their solution? Just break it apart.
So why were they so afraid? What was it about Bengal? Well, to get that, we need to jump back to the early 1900s, because Bengal was, without a doubt, the vibrant beating heart of a rising Indian nationalism.
For the folks running the British Raj, Bengal wasn't just another piece of the map. No, they called it the nerve center of the whole independence movement. All this growing unity, this political awareness, they saw it as a massive threat to their control over India.
So, of course, they cooked up two different stories. The official reason they gave everyone? Oh, Bengal's just too big. 78 million people, it's an administrative nightmare. But, you know, their private memos told a very different story. The real motive? Classic divide and rule. Weaken their position by splitting them right down the middle.
And the top guy himself, the viceroy, Lord Curzon, he wasn't exactly subtle about it. The goal, he said, was to dethrone Calcutta and chop up the Bengali-speaking population, mostly along religious lines. The big hope was that they could carve out a new Muslim-majority province that would be more loyal to them.
But here's the thing about poking a hornet's nest. The people of Bengal weren't just going to sit back and accept this. The second these plans became public, a huge wave of protests started, and it began with the tools that people knew best at the time.
And the reaction wasn't just big, it was immediate. Just think about this. In the first 2 months, there were 500 protest meetings in East Bengal alone. 500. This wasn't some fringe thing. It was a genuine, popular uprising from the get-go.
Now at first, the protest was led by what we called the moderates, leaders like Surendranath Banerjee. And their whole strategy was, let's fight this from within the system. They launched these huge press campaigns, held public meetings, and just flooded the government with petitions. The goal was to use the power of public opinion to make the British change their minds.
And the scale of this was just immense. We're not talking about a few hundred signatures. Some of these petitions had up to 70,000 names on them. For that era, that is a massive, unprecedented level of political mobilization. It was proof that pretty much everyone was against this partition.
But here's the rub. Despite all the meetings, all the articles, all those 70,000 signatures, the British government just dug in its heels. They refused to listen. And it slowly dawned on everyone that polite protest just wasn't going to cut it. This is where the movement takes a sharp, radical turn.
And in 1905, things just exploded. On July 19th, the government made it official. Barely 3 weeks later, on August 7th, leaders in Calcutta made a huge move. They formally launched the Swadeshi Movement and passed a powerful new resolution, the boycott. A line had been crossed. So what exactly was this boycott resolution? Well, you can think of it as a declaration of economic war. The plan was to hit the British where it really hurts, their wallet. The pledge was to refuse to buy key British goods, especially their famous cloth from Manchester and salt from Liverpool. The protest was no longer about asking, it was about applying direct pressure. Then came October 16th, 1905, the day the partition actually happened. And on that day, what started as a protest movement just ignited into this incredible display of national unity and creative resistance that nobody had ever seen before. That whole day was just filled with these powerful scenes of solidarity. People fasted. Nobody lit their cooking fires. Huge crowds walked barefoot to the Ganges River, singing the movement's new anthem, Bande Mataram. And in this beautiful gesture, people tied Rakis, these sacred threads, on each other's wrists, as a symbol that the people of Bengal were one unbreakable family.
The sheer scale of it all was just staggering. You had mass meetings in Calcutta drawing crowds of up to 75,000 people. I mean, can you imagine? Tens of thousands of rupees were raised right there on the spot to keep the movement going. This wasn't a protest anymore, it was a full-blown mass movement. And pretty quickly, the tactics evolved way beyond just boycotting. It became this amazing, creative explosion of resistance. You had public bonfires of foreign cloth, volunteer groups called Samitis popped up to do social work in villages, people started their own national schools to replace the British ones, they even used folk theater and popular festivals to spread the Swadeshi message.
And driving all of this was this really deep, powerful philosophy called Atma Sakti, which basically means self-reliance. See, the goal wasn't just to resist the British anymore. It was about building a stronger India from the inside out, by boosting national education, reviving local businesses, and just reasserting national pride.
But you gotta ask, did the boycott actually work? Well, take a look at the numbers. The answer is a huge yes. The impact was absolutely stunning. In some areas, the sale of British cloth just plummeted. We're talking by 5 to 15 times in a single year. This was real, tangible proof that when people acted together, they could actually hurt the British Empire. Now, that fire that started in Bengal, it didn't stay in Bengal. The energy and the success of the movement started spreading all across the country, and in the process, it completely changed the goals of the entire Indian freedom struggle.
You had leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak in Bombay and Lala Lajpat Rai in Punjab, who took this message of Swadeshi and boycott and carried it far beyond Bengal's borders. Suddenly, from Delhi all the way down to Madras, what was happening in Bengal became a national cause.
And all this national energy forced a massive shift in ambition. By 1906, at the Indian National Congress meeting, a new goal was declared. It wasn't just about getting the partition reversed anymore. The new goal was Swaraj, self-government.
When you step back and look at it, the Swadeshi movement was a massive leap forward. It pioneered so many of the methods of mass struggle, from boycotts to passive resistance, that would define the fight for the next 40 years. It brought women, students, all kinds of new people into politics. It was really the birthplace for almost every major political idea in the freedom struggle.
And honestly, this quote from a Bengali leader in 1906 just says it all perfectly. The British plan to divide and conquer, it backfired spectacularly. By trying to crush Indian nationalism, they accidentally supercharged it, doing more for the cause of Indian unity in 6 months than nationalists had managed in the last 50 years.
So, the Swadeshi movement was so much more than just a protest. It was this powerful, powerful statement about self-reliance, about reclaiming your own dignity and confidence through your own actions. And that leaves us with a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? How might that same spirit of self-reliance inspire us today?